Recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And as I listen to the conversation, it just occurs to me that nobody here seems to recognize that we've maxed out the credit card. I mean, trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars in borrowing, and we still say there's no problem just spending money like it grows on trees. It just boggles my mind. And, I recently received a disturbing email from a constituent that demonstrates the breathtaking shortfalls of this multi-trillion-dollar tax and spend, big government debt exploding strategy that the Biden administration is pursuing. My constituent owns 14 restaurants, and he employs hundreds of workers in my district. And in the few days after receiving their third economic impact payment of $1,400, 85 of his 267 employees walked off the job. I want to repeat that. 85 of his employees who had a job, they were employed. They walked off the job. And to save everyone the math, that's 32% of his entire workforce that quit because of the American Recovery Plan. Okay? They quit because of the ARP. With $1,400 for themselves, their spouses, dependents, they felt they no longer had to work. Now, he is having big trouble backfilling those roles because the job market is so tight. The NFIB recently reported that 40% of small businesses have job openings that they cannot fill right now. And he's one of the victims. And his employees are victims now because they no longer have a job, because the government and Congress specifically has told those people to go home and not work. And he's now having big trouble with even operating his business. My constituent told me he didn't see a similar pattern with the first economic impact payments under the CARES Act, back when employees were truly struggling and they really needed the money, and when restaurants were forced to actually shut down. Now, I know that many of my colleagues on both sides of the aisle are hearing similar stories in their districts, and it shows the consequences when Congress and the administration ignore basic economics and plow through trillions of dollars in poorly targeted spending, even as the economy is recovering. Mr. Riedel, in your research, have you encountered similar anecdotes? And since we're talking about infrastructure in housing, is paying people not to work helping those people's prospects for housing security in the long run? You are muted, sir.
I knew it would happen. Thank you for the question. I mean, the history of anti-poverty programs has shown that you have to be very careful with incentives. A lot, the old AFDC program was notorious for having huge incentive effects against working because the phase-out rate was so steep. Even people on the right and left agree that was poorly designed. In terms of unemployment benefits, the average unemployment benefit right now is about 100% of the wage replenishment for the average unemployed worker. Now, that's not bad when the unemployment rate is 14% and we're paying people to stay home and we don't want people to work. The danger is, as soon as the economy reopens, as it's starting to, as soon as people start to go back to work, as soon as people get their pandemic shots, all of a sudden, when you want people to go back to work, having that 100% wage replacement from unemployment benefits will all of a sudden create a cliff. I don't think it was a big problem when we didn't want people to work, but very quickly, or I think we're going to see over the next couple months, it's going to become a problem when the economy reopens and individuals see that the marginal additional wage of working is, at least in the short term, almost zero.
So just reclaiming my time, and I only have a minute left, but look, I think that the best way we can help people have long-term, sustainable, non-subsidized housing is to make sure that they have wage growth. And increasing taxes and reversing the positive benefits of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, where we saw in the first 2 years after the tax cuts, real median household income increased $4,900. Employment surged, especially among the long-term unemployed, poor, and minorities. Wealth for the bottom 50% of households advanced 3 times as fast as the top 1%. Average median income increased 6.8%. Why would we reverse that when we were actually helping people achieve their own housing and be able to afford their own housing without relying on the government? And it just seems totally counterintuitive to me that we would reverse the progress we've made that actually help people in the lower echelons of the income scale. And I yield back.